Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. I'm so glad you're with us today to stay curious. The 1st of July, July 1st, 2025, we're broadcasting live from our studios inside the American Space Museum in downtown Titusville, just literally less than 10 miles away from the big vehicle assembly building and all of the launch pads of Cape Canaveral and Kennedy Space Center property. So we got a launch at 5 o'clock or something today. Didn't look up the exact time, but Marty Winkle, my co-producer, will look it up for me. And we've got Matthew Raj pinch hitting, learning the board here of our Streamlabs production facility. So welcome, gentlemen. And 5:04. All right, so I better wrap it up here pretty quick so we can get out there and see another noisy Falcon 9 rocket lift off. And hadn't seen the weather. We're predicting some rain and stuff, so we'll see if that passes off or not. But not often we can bring breaking news, Marty, and I don't even think you know about this, but I was shocked to read this on Collect Space. Robert Perlman is the webmaster of that wonderful Collect Space website. And here is the news, Marty. Updated at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The United States Senate passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act with the provision to relocate Space Shuttle Discovery to Houston. In a 50-50 vote this afternoon, with Vice President J.D. Vance breaking the tie, the bill now heads to the House of Representatives with a provision to move Discovery from the Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Center in Chantilly, Virginia, to put it on display at the Space Center in Houston.
Does that mean they're going to take Travis's spacesuit also? His white suit?
Oh yeah, take Triple T's white suit with it there. Don't know, but Marty, it's not April 1st, it's July 1st, but we do have a tie-in to April with the shuttle of July we're going to talk about. So I'm just going to read this. We are, of course, not political, sexist, or religion do we talk about on our podcast or in our nonprofit museum, but this is the facts. The quote, Bring the Space Shuttle Home Act, unquote, first introduced by Texas Senators Ted Cruz and John Cornyn in April, has now been added to the Senate's version of the bill championed by President Donald Trump. While the latter legislation primarily focuses on tax cuts and spending increases, the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, chaired by Cruz, added the retired orbiter's relocation as part of an additional $9.995 billion with a B in funding for NASA's programs, including the return of astronauts to the moon and sending humans to Mars. Okay. Out of that appropriations, $85 million is directed to carry out Cornyn's Bring the Space Shuttle Home Act, okay, which calls for Discovery to be removed from its home for the past 13 years at the National Air and Space Museum's Udvar-Hazy Center, which I've been to, and Marty took me there 4 years ago, Marty, I think it is, and put it on display at Space Center Houston, the official visitor complex for NASA's Johnson Space Center in Texas, all right? The Senate version of the One Big Beautiful Bill provides, quote, no less than $5 million for the transportation of the space vehicle and the remainder to go towards the construction of a facility to house it. And the question is $85 million even enough to build a facility? Now, breaking news to y'all that Tommy Usiak, who was at the Udvar-Hazy transfer of Discovery with the Endeavor that was there, says, I'll believe that when I see it. How are they going to do it and how much will it cost? They don't have a SCA, as we call it, Space Shuttle Carrier, Space Carrier Aircraft, SCA. Those were all retired. In fact, that's what's on display at Houston with a mock up of a shuttle on top of it. I've seen it there. So anyway, we will see what happens with that as all of you space geeks out there are chiming in. Don't know any more about it. We got RG Jubilee there. Um, uh, and everybody's got the time 5:04 no matter where you at. Hello and happy Canada Day. Okay, Dave Stange. Doug Forrest, he's looking at Endeavor under wraps out there at LA. We can't wait to see that. Mitch Rothman's there in Colorado. Hi, Mitch. Carlton Bailey's joined us, and Tommy Usiak's in stormy Pennsylvania. Robert Law's up in night descending on Scotland. Hello, Steve Jokums, and he says all his friends and stay curious today. Indeed, we have become all friends. Good afternoon, Gary Gerald. No, I'm not too far away from the Vidalia onions that he dropped off, but we've only got a few sackfuls left, and everybody says they're delicious, Gary, including myself. And yep, Tommy Usiak, like there's no 747 left to transport it. So, hello, Tom Celentano. And Steve Jokums, no lift cradles either, scrapped after the Endeavor lift. At the California Science Center. They did do it with cranes out there at White Sands with STS-3, and Mark Usiak was out there to see that. So that is breaking news, fans. The Senate has 50-50 vote with the Republican Vice President J.D. Vance breaking the tie. There's a lot of Republicans that jumped ship over there and didn't support that bill. I did not know that was buried in there. That's what they call pork barrel politics, right, Marty? There, so breaking some news there for you, and we'll follow that up in the news tomorrow. The House has to pass the bill, and I'm not sure how that politics lays out because I don't pay attention to politics much, but I am a flag-waving American, and we've got some great missions to talk about here in July, the birth of our country. Let's just honor our country right there. We're going to be closed Friday, July 4th. Open Saturday, though, and if there's not too busy in the afternoon, I've told the staff they can go home and enjoy their fireworks with their family. 249th birthday, Marty, so the big one next year, the sesquibicentennial is what it would be. And my God, we were around for the bicentennial, Marty. Don't think Raj was, but it was I was a budding reporter, and I did a hell of a lot of bicentennial stories, including the Freedom Train. Remember, the Freedom Train was going around the country with the supposed Constitution and Bill of Rights on board of it, so you can go up on the train and see it. I was a reporter. It looked real to me, but hell, any of that stuff could have been just a good-looking model of it. Why would they risk that out in the public type of thing, our Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence? So we're going to talk about the shuttles of the month of July today, one in specific that's got a deja vu connotation to it. And Marty, as I looked at, we'll see him here in a minute, just some fabulous shuttle missions. We seem to say that every month, but that's why we dive into them in detail, so you understand how our world was changed by the space shuttle like no other spaceship. And to repeat it will be difficult, I think. So we'll get to that in just a second. Wanted to show you a pretty picture off of Space Weather, my homepage. This is a lake up in Canada. Actually, this is Gleichen, Alberta. This is an expert astrophotographer and astronomy writer, Alan Dyer, D-Y-E-R. He's one of the gurus of the whole thing, astrophotography included. This is a major outbreak of noctilucent clouds. Noctilucent clouds are these electric blue clouds. Aren't they pretty? I've never seen them with my own eye, but this is the noctilucent cloud season. They call them NLCs. The night sky over Canada and Europe turned electric blue last night during a major outbreak of these noctilucent clouds. And what are they? It took scientists a while to figure out what they were, and they really weren't captured on film cameras like they have been on digital cameras. And once the digital age hit and everybody was just taking pictures of everything because it was free, you didn't have to pay for film or have the film processed into prints. So we started seeing these. What are they? They appear every June and July when summertime wisps of water vapor rise to the edge of space and form rims of ice around ash from burnt up meteors. This is meteor smoke that frozen crystals are clinging to. Fine ripples and blue glow distinguish them from ordinary clouds, and they happen around twilight. And this is a big show of them right now. Now, there'll be another big show of them in August when the Perseid meteors put a lot of meteor smoke and debris in our atmosphere. But that's what they're caused by. And Alan Dyer, never met you, but certainly familiar with your work. Maybe one day our paths will cross, but he goes to all these remote areas of the world, particularly Canada and the western states of America, to take these fabulous pictures. So, all right, let's get to the program here. And now, why is that jumped ahead? And Marty, I left the script over there in my printer. Oh, I know. I put this one out of sequence. That's the backdrop. Okay, that's our green screen. Another fabulous shot, I think, from the VAB by one of the UCACs. They'll correct me if I'm wrong. But I was out at Kennedy Space Center just to get a break. I'm so blessed that I can just leave here at little after noon. Actually, I left about 10 minutes after 12, Marty. And when I got to the line to see this astronaut who I wanted to see out there, it was all the way to the back and with only 15 minutes left. And that astronaut was John Harrington. There's John, Chickasaw Native American, the first indigenous Native American to go to space. He did 3 spacewalks on STS-1, oh gosh, I forget, 115. That's his patch right there. I think it's 115. But I can figure that out here real quick in the book I'm going to read here in just a second. But he's a great guy. It's actually 113. I was thinking after 114, the return to flight, but this was 113, the mission right before 107, the fateful Columbia mission. A Navy guy. This is the plane that he flew in the Navy. He's still, and his achievements inspired the Sacagawea coin. Any excuse I can have to say Sacagawea. That is a fun word to say there. There's the coin, Sacagawea, very famous Indian figure, befriended by the Americans early on. That whole Indian, Native American, and American conflict is something that people don't talk about too much, but it was quite a war really within our country, again, like the Civil War for a while. You're going to say something, Marty?
Was she a guide for Lewis and Clark?
She died for Lewis and Clark?
Wasn't she a guide?
Oh, she was a guide for Lewis and Clark. Thank you. That's where it comes from. That's right, Marty. Sacagawea there. And there is John Harrington doing a spacewalk up at the 2-3 o'clock section of the coin there, 2 o'clock section there. That's figured after him, and this was done for the state of Oklahoma that John was part of. That's $1 coin there, by the way. So John's a great guy. Going to have dinner with him tomorrow. There's Nick Thomas, who's a little too busy in June to do his monthly program. He, a couple times a year, he just is bottled up with his own personal life, but he's going to come in July and talk to him about. Give me some tidbits about Apollo 11 and 15 that people have never heard about. And we'll talk. He'll be talking about that. And there is John Harrington with an E. He has written a book that I set over here. Mission to Space. Okay. This is my favorite book, Marty. It's just about 20 pages of nothing but big writing and not many words and a lot of pictures, okay? And John says that he was inspired by he says flying in space takes a lot of training. And then he says I trained in a virtual reality lab, and I trained in a pool called the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. He wanted to be a spacewalker, and he was on 3 missions. And it takes a lot of hard work to do something well. Just a little primer for kids to be read about how keep the steady pressure on your goals and so forth. And I had this done to my. He's a proud Chickasaw, that's for sure, and I love him for that. Uh, Here he talks about his dedicated it to his dad for making the world of flight possible. And he lives out in the West. I'm not going to say exactly where he lives, but when I was a little boy, I'd like to shoot rockets with my dad and my older brother. All right, just as simple as that. And there he is. And they all pretty much look alike there. So proud that he's a business friend of mine and a good guy. And if you're local, go out and see John Harrington. There he is with a group of ladies out there. So, John, we'll be seeing you tomorrow night. And he's did a couple interviews with us on Stay Curious. Are you seeing anybody commenting? I blew everybody away. Nick Sedler says, always wonderful to listen to these shows. Thank you, Nick. And CB, okay, that's STS 121 on the green screen, okay, is what he says. So I got my missions mixed up. It does look cool. And Carlton's maybe claiming that picture. All right. Don't always put everybody's names on things, but the USAC brothers, Tom and Mark and Carlton Bailey, certainly deserve credit for their work. That's been fabulous. Looking at my July map here, my July calendar, Marty, there's a lot of other interesting space flights in July we're going to be talking about. How about Apollo Soyuz test project 50 years later, launched on July 15th? Of course, Apollo 11 was launched on July 16th and landed on the 20th on the moon. Gemini 10, 1966 mission. Who are the astronauts on Gemini 10? One was Mike Collins, and his commander was that the second flight of Young and Collins? Joachim will tell me about it there. And who are the Gemini 10 astronauts? And Mercury Redstone 4 Liberty Bell was launched on that suborbital flight where we lost Liberty Bell. And Apollo 15 Endeavour and Falcon were launched for the moon in 1971 on the 26th. So 2 moon landings, launches, a Gemini and a Mercury, as well as ASTP with 11 shuttles. Oh, you went in the room in there? Was it Young and Collins? Yeah. See, my old brain is clicking around in there. Marty went over in to go see the Ramones sign in there, the Ramones restaurant sign, not the rock group Ramones. That was at the restaurant Ramones in there. So, thank you there, Man Space, Mitch Rothman. I knew he'll be all over that on his wonderful website called NASA Man Space. And Mitch has been raising money for our memorabilia shop that we're going to have, a space shop. I'm going to call it shop instead of store. There's a space store out there. And Mitch, if you send me the people that donated, we'll give them some love also on our Facebook page. And we appreciate everybody. You can go to our website at the top, pull down the donation button. There is a tab there to donate money to the refurbishment of our gift shop to be called a space shop. So, well, let's look at some of these up there just as they appear up there. 94 we're going to talk about, launched today. This was the famous repeat mission. We'll talk about that more in a second. 11 beautiful shuttles launched. Who is the leader? Orbiter 102, Columbia, had 4 launches in the month of July. Uh, Discovery 103 had 3. Did Atlantis had 3, and Endeavour had 1. 21 was another great mission. The only mission launched on the 4th of July of all of America's space flights. Lindsay and Kelly were the pilot and commander and pilot, I mean. That had Lisa Nowak on it, that she's going to be infamous for losing her job. Sure, everybody realizes that story. Lisa Nowak was in a love triangle with another astronaut, and she threatened to kill him, kill the girlfriend, and in Orlando Airport was arrested. So she got disbarred as the astronaut corps. I think she kept her Navy captain status, though. And she has attended some astronaut gatherings, we were told by several astronauts at Johnson Space Center. STS-65, the next one left. Marty, how many people do we know out of these missions? We know Don Thomas. Know them. We've met them, hung out with them. Don Thomas of STS-94. Don't think I met anyone on 121. Bob Cabana got his cell phone in my thing, my card there, with Don Thomas and Mukai, the first Japan woman to go to space. That's STS-65 there. The last shuttle mission of all was launched July 11th, 2011. And that was Atlantis on STS-135. I've met Fergie a few times. I've met Doug Hurley. Not met Magnus or Walham on there. 104 in the middle on the left took up the Quest EVA airlock. Very important mission. All right. And I've not met anybody there. STS-70. Does this mean Don Thomas has 3 of his missions? Was he on STS-65 or is that another Thomas? Looks like he's got 3 of his missions in July, because STS-70 that we'll be talking about involves the Northern Flicker. Okay. Northern Flicker woodpecker. All right. It pecked a hole. One woodpecker did tremendous damage to the external tank. And Don Thomas at our Shuttle Fest gave a funny talk, and Marty, a lot of people enjoyed that talk more than any of them, just because everybody loves the comedian in anybody. And when you have something as fun as this, over 100 hours of video of this woodpecker pecking on the tank, and Don said, "Let that sink in a minute." 100 hours watching a bird destroy our spaceship fuel tank. All right, and nobody could do anything about it because, one, they weren't working over the weekend, the right people except security, and 2, it's a wildlife center, so you just couldn't pop it with a BB gun or something. All right, and there's STS-127, a very dark patch there, but Julie Payette, we certainly met Julie a couple times, and again, Doug Hurley's on that one. He's got 2 missions now in the month of March. Well, then we're gonna jump ahead there. Then over on my shoulder, interestingly enough, Eileen Collins's 2 commands. Her first command after being a pilot was STS-93. All right, I've just met her and Katie Coleman. Talked to Katie Coleman briefly. And then 114 has Wendy Lawrence on it. She's popular out there. Yeah, there's 2 Thomases. I'm thinking of Andy Thomas. Andy Thomas, yeah, is on that one. And then, but 93 we'll be talking about towards the end of July. That is the one that had an engine problem going to space, and short-circuited, and they had to turn off one of the engines. A close call with that heavy payload. J.D. Bartow, STS-51F. That's the Cola Wars, okay? Were in space in 1985. And J.D.'s an excellent man. Of course, Story Musgrave's on there. I was talking to Story a couple weeks ago in Orlando at the International Space Development Conference. And then the last and 11th mission is the tethered satellite, STS-46, and that's with our great friend and supporter of the museum, Andy Allen, who's president of his own company there. So, yeah, I talked to Marcia Ivins for a couple minutes. She told me that she was good to hear that we're promoting the shuttle on our video podcast. She said that's good because NASA channel doesn't talk about the shuttle enough. And so that was her opinion of that. So, well, 11 beautiful shuttles, 68 astronauts punched a ticket on there, a couple multiple tickets, 15 of those women, a big ratio of men to women again in the month of July. So let's look at this one mission, 83. 83 is not a July mission. It was launched in April, and it stayed in space for a couple days, and then it came back down. Let me get the exact, well, I'm not going to look that up. Then it came back down because of a fuel cell problem, and they would have lost another fuel cell, then they would have really had problem aborting the mission maybe. So they did the reflight, and this is the only time that NASA reflew the same vehicle. Okay, yeah, that's the launch there, 83. Maybe it's not 83. I have it tagged 83. But in April, they landed it, and the exact same crew went in the same vehicle again, and that was the quickest turnaround. April, May, June, July, less than 3 months. So Don Thomas talks about that, what a thrill it was to have those two launches back to back. There's a beautiful typical launch. And then they never changed nothing in the patch except the color. So Mark, let's read from our mission patch book here. They do have the two colored patches. A good trivia question is which came first, the red or the blue, but of course they have the number down the bottom. The patch depicts Columbia launching into space for the first microgravity sciences laboratory mission. The MSL will investigate material science, fluid dynamics, biotechnology, and combustion science in the microgravity environment of space. The center circle symbolizes a free liquid under microgravity conditions, representing various fluid and material science experiments. Symbolic of the combustion experiments is the surrounding starburst of a blue flame burning in space. The three-lobe shape of the outermost starburst ring traces the dot pattern of a transmission Lau photograph, typical of biotechnological experiments. That's a capital L-A-U-E with a little mark over the E. Laue. Anyway, it's a biotechnical experiment photograph. Mission number 83, and of course then later 84, is shown at the bottom of the patch. As a forerunner of the future International Space Station missions, it is hoped that scientific results and the knowledge gained during the mission will be applied by solving problems on Earth for the benefit and advancement of humankind. Artist Mark Pestana designed the patch, and he is designed several patches on there. And Don Thomas shared this picture. That is him outside the rocket on launch day. When it parked, he ran over there and wanted a picture underneath the mobile launch platform there of the bird Columbia. And the walkout by one of you all photographers out there, Usiak or Bailey. That's Jim Halsell, the commander, Susan Still, the pilot. She could have been a commander, but she retired because her husband was a Navy SEAL trainer, and she had, I think, 3 or 4 kids. Janice Voss is the payload commander. Don Thomas, Mike Gernhardt, Roger Crouch, and Greg Linteris. We met Roger Crouch. What a fun guy he is. And this micro lab payload, microgravity science laboratory payload. Wait till I hear you all the experiments they did on it. It was just phenomenal. There's a beautiful launch of STS-94. Deja vu all over again for this crew less than 3 months later. And I love this photograph from the T-38 jet with astronauts on board, one flying, one taking the pictures. That's always so cool to see the nasty cloud out of those SRBs with all that power getting that 100-ton spacecraft and everything else up into space. And here they are working. There's Susan, there's Janice Voss, and Susan Kilran. She was Susan Still at the time. Goes by Kilran now. Janice Voss. 5 missions, lost her life to cancer. And Don Thomas up there in the upper right-hand corner there. Combustion experiments. This is flames. Fire, fire, fire. A new mechanism of flame extinction caused by radiation of soot was created. They burned things as low as 1/50th the power of a birthday candle to the longest burning flames in space, 500 seconds. That's 9 minutes. And a little under 9 minutes. They had spent 16 days in space on this mission, one of the longest missions of all. 17 days is the longest. More than 200 combustion experiment runs were completed. They improved fire safety on future spacecraft and developed cleaner, more efficient internal combustion engines as a result of this. Then in the mid-deck glove box facility, they did 100 test runs were performed of liquid and bubble behavior, fluid-based heat transfer devices, and solid liquid mixtures. So, and Don loves talking about the science that he was doing on there. More than 700 crystals of various proteins were grown, which will help scientists to better understand their structures and design more effective drugs to treat such diseases as cancer, diabetes, and AIDS. And this is in 1997, when AIDS was very much on the mind of a lot of people. They had a furnace on board. They had astroplant genetic bioprocessing apparatus. And this is important. You may have heard of the Express Rack. All right, a standard item on the ISS to transfer out payloads and experiments, called the Expedite the Process of Experiments to Space Station Rack. I love that. Expedite the Process of Experiments to Space Station Rack. The Express flew for the first time on MSL-1 and proved that it was the right device to take up and down there. So, beautiful shuttle, and I love doing this. You know I'm going to do this, Marty. Little psychedelic shack here on Stay Curious, all right? Don't flip out, Marty or Raj there, okay? So which is 93 and which is 94? So, all right. Thank you all for watching. I think it's important to share our history of our American space program, particularly the shuttle era, as we have evidence of its success with the International Space Station. Now almost 25 years, it'll be continuously occupied. And all of the things going on up there were pioneered in the cargo bay, like this STS 94/83 mission of Columbia. So, oh, anything over there? We got Saran Mita. Lots of love from India. Saran, thank you. We love the Indian culture, the largest population on the world, and they're going to start doing big things. In fact, we were showing the India Chandra orbiter image of the Apollo 11 landing site, and we'll refresh that later on there. So, so anyway, yes, our ASTP coverage will be coming. Tommy Usiak, thank you so much. And we're glad that, let's see, 83, yes, also studied Comet Hale-Bopp. And yes, he's right about that. Carlton got Don Thomas to sign his Comet Hale-Bopp above the orbiter out there at the pad in 1997. 97, We had a comet named Hayaku Take in 96 and a good one, Hale Bopp, in 97. And quite frankly, that's about the last good naked eye that we've had. So that's been far too long, 28 years to wait for another fabulous comet that Hale Bopp was. So, well, thank you all for watching today. Tomorrow on Hump Day, we'll figure out something spacey to do. And of course, we will repeat again that our U.S. Senate tied 50-50 votes, tie broken by Vice President Vance to pass the big bill on the Senate. And it contains an amendment, if that's the right word, to move Discovery from Udvar-Hazy, Washington, D.C. to Houston. So don't pop the champagne yet there in Houston yet, because I think you're going to have a big problem getting that orbiter there with not just logistics, but there might be some battle lines being drawn on keeping that thing. And it's beautiful there. It's sitting on all three landing legs. So we'll be following that up also. So until tomorrow, when we will wind it up and do it again, as after all, there's always something spacey to talk about in the American space program. That's why we do it. I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you again to do some more spacey stuff to bridge the space between us. Thanks a bunch.